best of you. Hold your head up and walk on through. I know it's hard to see your way. The devil's throwing darkness all in your way. Don't blow your top. Stay in and fight. Yahshua will be there. Either way, the truth and the light.
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright. Alright.
Everything's
gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 Don't let your problems get you down. Don't let the situation make you frown. Don't let the hard times get the best of you. Hold your head up and walk on through.
Walk on through.
I know it's hard to see your way. The devil's throwing darkness all in your way. Don't blow your top. Stay and fight. Yahshua will be there. Either way, the truth and the light.
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 Everything's
gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 Ooh, the burdens you face, all your fears He will erase, all the troubles you go through. He told me to tell you it's gonna be alright.
Gonna be alright.
It's gonna be alright.
Gonna be alright.
It's gonna be alright.
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 Be alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright. Alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright. Alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright. Alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright. Alright.
And everything will.
Be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 Everything.
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 Ooh, believe when I say trouble don't last always. Join in with me, and soon you will see it's gonna be alright.
Be alright.
It's gonna be alright.
Gonna be alright.
It's gonna be alright.
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 Be alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright. Alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright. Alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright. Alright.
Alright, alright.
Alright. Alright.
And everything will.
Be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 All in all,
Everything's
I
be
am
alright.
Asher.
Be alright.
I am
Alright.
everything.
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 Eternally.
Everything's
Everything.
gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 All in all,
Everything's
I
gonna
am
be alright.
Asher.
Be alright.
I am
Alright.
everything.
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 Everything.
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 Everything.
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 Everything.
Everything's gonna be alright.
He told me.
Be alright.
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 Everything.
Everything's
I
gonna
am
be alright.
Asher.
Be alright. All right.
Sorry for the noise. Good evening, class. And thank you, choir. Tonight is our Elohim book reading night. We are in volume 4. The title is The Mystery of Yahweh, the Mystery of Iniquity, and the Mark of the Beast. We are currently on page 42. And the topic for this evening, I believe, is the Israel divided into two kingdoms. Forming two kingdoms, okay? Israel and Judah. And our facilitator for this evening will be Dr. Musa Mayangu.
Thank you. Good evening. Hello. Everything is, I did appreciate that song. Everything is going to be all right. It just give you that energy and everything. I don't know, like today I have to admit today was one of those days that I was feeling really, just energy was just not there. Since morning, and even at work, I told them, like, I just don't have the energy. You know, it's just one of those days, and I don't know, it's one of those things they say winter, like, you know, we get depressed and all kind of like, so that everything is gonna be all right. It's kind of a shot of energy. It's like, yeah, don't worry. Everything is gonna be all right. So we are on Elohim book, page 42. Israel divided, forming two kingdoms, Israel and Judah. We were talking about this last 2 weeks. We started, we're going to pick it up where we started. We ended up on the Leviticus. We talked about why this kingdom have divided, and the reason why was because Yahweh told the children of Israel that if you follow my laws and my commandments, I will bless you. However, if you don't do what I told you, then I will punish you. And we went through all those punishments that he promised that he's going to do. Now today, I was hoping we can start where Solomon's, just to get a little background of Solomon, because we're going to be talking about this. The two kingdoms that are divided are the children of Solomon. So we have Saul was the first king of Israel, and then we had David, both ruled for 40 years. We went through this, with Saul, and then we came through David. And then, Solomon is the son of David, who also ruled for another 40 years. And after Solomon, initially how things used to go was your firstborn will inherit, and take over the kingdomship. However, because of the sins that has happened, because of Solomon doing things that was not what's the word? That pleased Yahweh. Like sin, but things that didn't please Yahweh. He went against what Yahweh have instructed his father, he himself, and so Yahweh, because of that, the kingdom is going to end up being divided in two. And these are his children, the tribes of children. Now, so let's get to the first king. I think it's on the 11th chapter. And I am going to, so that we can go quicker on this, I'm not going to be committed in anything except when we get to those. There's a little pre-headings for each little section. So there's they're talking about Solomon's wife and idolatry. Oh my God. Idolatry. I can't say that word. Idolatry. Idolatry. Forgive me. I really apologize for torturing that word, but basically just doing what it was not supposed to do. And then there's a section of where Yahweh's angers against Solomon. We're gonna it's gonna be talked. And then there's adversaries of Solomon's, and then there's the death of Solomon. So just a little background of what we're going to be doing in this section. So go ahead and start.
Okay, 1 Kings 11th chapter. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, the Amorites, Edomites, the Zidonians, and the Hittites, of the nations concerning which Yahweh said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their idols. Solomon claved unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and
Me too.
300 concubines. Wow. And his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after idols, and his heart was not perfect with Yahweh his Elohim, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the female idol of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Amorites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of Yahweh, and went not fully after Yahweh, as did David his father. Then Solomon built an high place for Chesmos, and an abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their idols.
So I'll stop there. Just so this section is just talking about what did Solomon do. You know, Yahweh have instructed them that you shall not marry outside your, Israel, the tribes. Solomon went and got wives from all over the place. And as we read there, not only that, he ended up starting worshiping their idols because they were worshiping different gods. Now, the only God, like when Yahweh took them out of Egypt, they have the commandment right here, and they say Yahweh saying that, I think it's the first and second commandments, that you shall not worship any other idol except, I think it's the fourth one, and they all agree right here, and they made that agreements right here. And he told them, like we talked last week, that on those days that you're gonna do these things, I will punish you. I'll punish your children. I'll visit even your children after your children, and I'll punish you. So don't do this. So Solomon ended up marrying wives from a different, Gentile. Not only that, he started building this temple for them. Like the high priest, when they're referring here, if you go to further, look out, it's kind of like building like a little temple for their God, so they can sacrifice their things, which is against everything that Yahweh have told them, and which is against what his father David was doing, because Yahweh instructed them to build this tabernacle. And there was like a specific instruction on how to officiate, who has to be the high priest, and every details about this officiating of the tabernacle, because everything about this tabernacle was about Yahweh himself, and because this is the creation that he created. So Solomon went against that. So that was just to give you an overview. So now let's see what Yahweh, is going to do.
9th verse. And Yahweh was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from Yahweh Elohim of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after idols, but he kept not that which Yahweh commanded. Wherefore Yahweh said unto Solomon, Forasmuch as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant.
So there is the first one that we're going to come back to the the Elohim book. Go ahead.
Notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for David's thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. And Yahweh stirred up the adversary unto Solomon, Haddah the Edomite. He was the king's seed in Edom.
And here's where he's talking about the adversary now, what's going to start happening just like how Yahweh promised. And by the way, I will lend the kingdom from thee is kind of tearing away, divides your kingdoms and give it away. So just take a, go ahead.
15th verse. For it came to pass when David was in Edom, and Joab, the captain of the host, was gone up to bury the slain, after he had smitten every male in Edom. For 6 months did Joab remain there with all Israel, until he had cut off every male in Edom. That Hadadah fled, and he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, to go into Egypt, Hadadah being yet a little child. And they arose out of the Midian and came to Paran, and they took men with them out of Paran, and they came to Egypt, unto Pharaoh's king of Egypt, which gave him an house, and appointed him victuals, and give him land. And Hadadah found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave him to wife the sister of his own wife, the sister of Talpenes, the queen. And the sister of Talpenes bare him Genubath, his son, whom Talpenes weaned into Pharaoh's house. And Genubath was in Pharaoh's household among the sons of Pharaoh. And when Hadadah heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab, the captain of the host, was dead, Hadadah said to Pharaoh, Let me depart, that I may go to my own country. Then Pharaoh said unto him, But what had thou lacked with me, that, behold, thou seekest to go to thy own country? And he answered, Nothing. Howbeit, let me go in any wise. And Elohim stirred him up another adversary, Rezon, the son of Elidah, which fled from his master Hadazir, the king of Zoab, and he gathered men unto him, and became captain over a band, when David slew them of Sobah, and they went to Damascus, and dwelt therein, reigned in Damascus. And he was the adversary to Israel all those days of Solomon, besides the mischief that Hadadah did, he abhorred Israel and reigned over Syria. And Jeroboam, the son of Nebaioth and Ephraim of Zeradah, Solomon's servant, whose mother name was Zerah, a widowed woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Millo and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over the charge of the house of Joseph. And it came to pass that the time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah and the Shilonite found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and the two were alone in the field. Again, Ahijah caught the new garment and was on him, and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, Take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith Yahweh Elohim of Israel, Behold, I will rent the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and he give 10 tribes to thee. But ye shall have one tribe, my servant David's sakes, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of the tribes of Israel. Because they have forsaken me, and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the female idol of the Zidonians, and Chemosh, the idol of Moabites, and Milcom, the idol of the children of Ammon, had not walked in my ways, to do that which was right in mine eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as David his father. Howbeit, I will not take this whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee even 10 tribes. And his son will I give one tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen me to put my name there. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shall be king of Israel. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, wilt walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and I'll give Israel unto thee. And I will do for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt unto Shittak, the king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. And the rest of the acts of Solomon and all that he did and his wisdom are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon? And the same time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David, his father, and Rehoboam, his son, reigned in his stead.
Thank you. So that was what Solomon did, and why, as we're going to see, why the kingdom was divided to his children who were supposed to inherit. One of the children, who was like a firstborn, was supposed to inherit the kingdom and follow the tradition, but because of the sin, the kingdom was divided, from 2 tribes, and then another kingdom was 10 tribes. So now let's go to the reading in the Elohim book. And while we are preparing to read that, just a little, to give a little, overview also, the aim of this class is to help you find and know Yahweh, our Elohim, as he really is and actually exists. So these stories are not just only for just a storytelling and just talking about these things. They have a spiritual manifestation of this. And what happened to Solomon, what happened to the children of Israel, is the manifestation of what happened to our spiritual body. Just like how Yahweh took the children of Israel out of Egypt, which is kind of a manifestation of darkness, out of darkness, and come and bring them here in the wilderness of Sinai, where he organized them, he teach them the law, he feed them, he gave them everything, he gave them manna. They didn't no famine, that's all I can say. But he fed them, he gave them commandments, and he told them, this is what you need to do. If you don't do what I told you, this is what's gonna happen. And he said, because I promised you to bring you to the kingdom, the everlasting kingdom, which I promised your father, Abraham. The journey of the children of Israel is similar to our journey spiritually. When we are out there in the world where we never know about Yahweh, and finally Yahweh appeared to us and kind of bring us to class and teach us about himself. And he, dismantled all the idols in our head. The idol of knowing that, Jesus was actually not even Jesus. His name is actually Yahshua. Those are idols in our head, because we can actually now prove by going, through a little search and looking in the Google. You'll just say there was no J in that, until the 1600. Then you start wondering, wait a minute, then why are we calling him Jesus? Then you go deeper and search and say, oh, so things have been changed. And why things have been changed? Because there's always those idols and gods and that serpent, the devil, who is given delusions and lie and twist things. He's always been trying to deceive people so they can go to, because he himself, he was punished from the beginning of this, creations, and has been sentenced to go to the lake of fire. So he's trying to bring as much as possible with him to go to the lake of fire, because even here, he brought 1/3 of the angel with him. So he's going to come and he's going to deceive and he's going to do all these things. So our spiritual journey started by us going out of this darkness of worshiping idols, of not knowing who actually Yahweh is, to bring us here. Now that we brought here is where he set us down and he started teaching us. He started teaching us, hey, I provided the children of Israel the instruction to build the tabernacle. This tabernacle is everything about me up here. Is a representation of me, because I'm going to dwell among them. Now, if you look on the tabernacle, the operation of the tabernacle, it has the court around about, the holy place, and the most holy place. There is 3 compartments, but there are also 3 vessels on each of these, compartments. Except up here where everything is one, but the three in one. And that's there is a high priest who is officiating in this tabernacle. And only chosen high priests, the tribe of Levi, Aaron was the first one who will officiate here. Now it's coming all the way back to what Yahshua himself, whom the world called him Jesus, will come and fulfill everything that he instituted right here. According to this tabernacle pattern, it's our journey. He's going to teach us what he actually is and actually exists, because we look on the body and we see how the bodies resemble how the officiating of the tabernacle works. And I'm just skipping. I'm just giving an overview. There's more. There's so much more. So the body, how that your body has the stomach, your body has the kidney, your body has the liver, and how the officiating of this body, your aorta, your heart, your lungs, your brain, how everything is correlating to this tabernacle pattern. And officiating, I'm talking about anatomy and physiology of your body, how everything is correlated to this. This is just not for fun. This is a spiritual manifestations, because that's who Yahweh is. Now you get to know this because we are here now. So he's teaching us all these things. Now he's telling us, hey Musa, I'm giving you all this knowledge. If you continue to be a knowledge seeker, if you continue to obey my law, I will bless you. However, if at some times you, after giving you all this knowledge, you decide, you know what, to hell with this, and you go on your way, I will punish you. The day you do that, I will punish you. He said that to Adam. The day you touch that tree, you're sure going to die. It was done. So that's the same thing we went through with the Leviticus when he told them. He gave him a lot of law. He gave him almost, and that's another thing, almost 613 laws that he gave him. But the word only talks about 10 commandments. There's more. There's more thing that they had to do around here every single day to make sure that they follow what Yahweh have told them. Because as long as they do those things, Yahweh will protect them. They were being, like, if you go back and look on the Old Testament, they were attacked by a lot of Gentiles, armies and all, but Yahweh will always protect them because they're doing what he told them. However, the moment you exit what you're supposed to do, that's what Yahweh told them. I'll punish you. I'll do this. I'll punish you. I'll punish your children. I'll visit your grandchildren. I'm not joking. I'll punish you. That's what he was saying last week we were going through. It's the same thing spiritually. So if by sometimes you decide, oh, you know what, I'm going to do whatever, it's just a lie, whatever. Okay, walk your way. But you're going to start seeing the manifestation of those spiritually now. Things not going to work out well. You're going to be either depressed, anxiety, or whatever. I was not joking when I say that song means something, because it's a manifestation of the energy. They always say, summer comes, people get happy and everything. It's because the suns bring some vitamin D. Vitamin D play a huge role on creating this hormone that make you happy. They give you energy. Then you get out there, you can mow the lawn, you can do whatever. It's not just a coincidence. There is a physiological manifestation of things that happen within your body. That's why you're able to walk and do things. Now, when you lack that vitamin D, wintertime, for example, there is a tendency. You don't have that energy. Hence, depressions, anxiety, and all these things. There is a correlation of those things. Spiritual is the same thing. If you're not getting that spiritual food, if you're not getting that spiritual, ingredients, you're going to start lacking that energy of seeking Yahshua. You're going to start slacking out. And so you need that. So when you get the insertion of energy, like even that word, that everything is going to be all right, then you'll be, oh yeah, you know what? I got Yahshua. Everything is going to be all right. That's the insertion of little vitamin D, spiritually. So that's what happened. And then Yahweh, after here, he say, hey, this is not the end, because here is your promised land. Here's what I'm going to put. So where we are reading now, they're here. He gave them their inheritance. They're all living good and everything. They have kingdoms. They have Saul. They have David. Now they have Solomon's. However, everything was going good if they keep the promise, if they keep doing what Yahweh have told them to do. The moment they disobey, punishments. So now Solomon did that, and here are the punishment that we just, talks about. But the main two one is the division of his kingdom. So let's start there. So I just wanted to give an overview if somebody is not familiar with what is going on with what we are reading right now.
I'm just going to read the title.
Thank you.
Yes. I'll be reading out of Elohim, the Archetype, Original Pattern of the Universe, Volume 4, which is titled The Mystery of Yahweh, The Mystery of Iniquity, The Mark of the Beast. Page 42, Israel divided, forming two kingdoms, Israel and Judah. After the decease of Solomon in 975 BY, his son Rehoboam began to reign in his father's stead. And that's 2 Chronicles 9
So let's
31.
do this. Let's just
read
go
it.
through.
Okay.
We're going to just listen to it until the end. And then when we come back, and then
come
we start
back.
picking
Okay.
up the,
Okay.
yeah.
Rehoboam is the son of Solomon by the Ammonite princess Naamah. Rehoboam selected Shechem as the place of the coronation, 975 BY, probably as an act of concession to the Ephraimites. The people demanded a remission of the severe burdens imposed by Solomon and Rehoboam. Rejecting the advice of his father's counselors, followed that of his young courtiers, and returned an insulting answer which led to an open rebellion among the tribes, and he was compelled to flee to Jerusalem. The tribes revolted, forming the kingdom of Judah, hence the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. Judah and Benjamin alone remained true to Rehoboam. An expedition to reconquer Israel was forbidden by the prophet Shemaiah. Still, during Rehoboam's lifetime, peaceful relations between Israel and Judah were never restored. In the 5th year of Rehoboam's reign, the country was invaded by a host of Egyptians and other African nations under Shishak. Jerusalem itself was taken, and Rehoboam had to purchase an ignominious peace by delivering up all the treasures with which Solomon had adorned the temple and palace. The rest of Rehoboam's life was unmarked by any event of importance. He died in 958 BY after a reign of 17 years, having ascended the throne in 975 BY at the age of 41. Jeroboam was made.
Let's start there, and then we're going to go back. So, because we are talking about this one son of Solomon who ended up taking one kingdom, and then we're going to talk about another son who ended up leading the other kingdoms. So these are the two, children of Solomon. Now we are talking about Rehoboam. Yeah. So he is the son of Solomon who ended up leading one of the tribe, which is Judah and Benjamin. And he actually, despite wisdoms, despite the counsels from we're going to see, despite the advice from the council of his father's council about doing certain things right, he ignored that. He rejected the advices and ended up doing something because he just went and asked the young military and say, what do you guys think? Should we, because one of the things that happened is there was this tribe that was cast away for quite some time because of the war, and they went and hide away, because his father demolished them. Well, when his father died, this tribe came back and said, hey, can we come back? This other army said, okay, please have mercy with us and everything. And he went and asked the council, and the council was like, yeah, maybe you should, consider that, because your father would say A, B, C, D. But he was like, no. So he went and asked the young militant, his soldiers, like, what do you guys think? And the soldiers like, no, actually, you should punish them more. You should even, kill them. You should, do all these things. And he was like, yes, let's do that, which is against what his, father and the council has, told him to do. Again, these are not things that happen haphazard. It's Yahweh doing it. Because Yahweh said he's going to divide the kingdom. So these things has to happen. Just remember, even when Yahweh told Moses down here, if we go back, Yahweh told, hey, go talk to Pharaoh and tell them that let my people go so that they can go and worship, me. But I'm going to make his heart hard. His heart is not going to allow you to go, Moses. But just go do what I told you to do. Because what I want to do is until the 10th, plague, because I want to punish, I want to show my power amongst their gods. So Yahweh is doing everything under control, because once he said again, it's done. And yes, he went to Pharaoh. Pharaoh is like listening to him and say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, but no, I'm not going to let him. Actually, Pharaoh said to his army, say, hey, we used to give them some kind of like tools to build the pyramids and everything. Take them away. Let them go and do it by themselves. He make it even harder for the children of Israel to do their work back then. But that was Yahweh's way of trying to show his power, because eventually he wanted to get to the firstborn death before they can be freed. Because the salvation has to happen through death, according to the pattern which we always discuss about. They have to be death, they have to have blood. So everything was going according to the pattern. So now what's happening with Solomon's sons is also happening, not haphazard, because Yahweh promised, once we read on the First King, when he told Solomon, I am going to divide your kingdom. So he has to set up events to happen. And this is what is happening. So let's go back, and then we're going to pick up. There's a lot of going and retrieving information from the Bible. And what I always advise, which I always do, which I really like, I think somebody told me they're here, which I think is David or the Dean. I end up getting myself a good King James Bible, which is more like a study Bible. And it's always have the references. So whenever I read, like, we're going to pick up like maybe one verses here or whatever. But I always want to read the several verses before and several verses after and look on the references, because they give you like a little good picture of what we are talking about. So we're going to be doing here a little bit, just picking up some of those verses to associate that story that is being told here. So go ahead and read that, and then we're going to pick up the
After the decease of Solomon in 975 BY, his son Rehoboam began to reign in his father's stead. 2 Chronicles 9:31 and 2 Chronicles 10:1.
And Solomon slept with his fathers, and he was buried in the city of David, his father. And Rehoboam, his son, reigned in his stead. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for to Shechem were all Israel come to make him king.
Shechem, even myself. So this is just like a confirmation of what, you just told about, how Solomon died and his son picked it up, his kingdomship. And then 2 Chronicle 10:1.
You got it? I read it already. Oh, you read it?
Oh, there was what about 2 Chronicle 9:31?
Yeah, I read that and then I went right into
Oh, okay, thank you. Go ahead, Daniel.
Rehoboam is the son of Solomon by the Ammonite princess Naamah.
So there is a story about this princess also. Again, this is one of those stories that did not please Yahweh, because of Solomon picking up wives and I can say that word, concubine. I say I've stayed in this country for more than 20 years, but I feel like the more I stay here, my English is getting even worse than how I was. I was like, it's like saying the word I just know there, so yes. I apologize. I'm going to be apologizing a lot. Yeah, okay. Concubine? Concubine, okay, concubine. It's one of those words that it's barely used also, unless you're reading the Bible or whatever. You just never, hear that much, So concubine, for those who don't know, is like a, what? Side chick. That's the easiest way to say it. mistress, side chick, you know. The mistress is more like a respective way. But the slogan in the streets is what Christy just use it. So, yeah. So, the street words is more like, whatever. Again, this is, a school, and you have to know these things are happening so that you can understand the spiritual manifestation. Because just like how, Rehoboam was born from Solomon's marrying this Gentile wife, end up building her a temple and worshiping idols, which is like, gods, which Yahweh told them, don't do that. Right. Lily, don't do that, because whenever you do that, I'm going to punish you. So, the manifestation of it is more like spiritually when Yahweh told you things, when Yahweh guide you through spiritual, growth and everything, and then you gain something, and then you end up disobeying Yahweh's order, by allowing more like idea. I would say this one would be more like allowing yourself to think you're more than who you are, maybe. Just like, like how we talk about here, like taking what you know and then build your own idea of like, oh, this is how I envision Yahweh should be, rather than not following what the instruction that he gave to Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley, how this creation was made and how it has to be taught. And so that's where I think you can get punished by doing so. We have so many examples spiritually. Go ahead.
1 Kings 14:21 and 31.
And Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, reigned in Judah. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which Yahweh did choose out of all the tribes of Israel, to put his name there, and his mother's name was Nahama, and Amorites. And 31st verse. And Rehoboam slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and his mother's name was Nahaman, and Amorites, and Abijah, Jibum, his son, reigned in his stead.
And as we're going to come to find out that he only reigned for 17 years, which is a very short period, considering the first king, Saul, reigned for 40 years. David, his grandfather, reigned for another 40 years. His father, Solomon, reigned for 40 years. But he only survived, he reigned for only 17 years. And according to what the scriptures giving, he started reigning when he was 40 years and some. So, and he died by the age, after 17 years. So it's like he was very young, like he's like around 58. Yeah, 58 years. So that's very, very young to be like, to die. So that's just show you that if you disobey, Yahweh is going to punish you. Go ahead.
Rehoboam selected Shechem as the place of his coronation.
Coronation is, I looked at, can we look at about just make sure that everybody's in the, but what I understand, coronation is more like a place where you get like a crown. Yeah, like how we do here, like I think in US you guys do when the presidents in January, they go to the Capitol, they do the whole thing, swearing and everything, I'll be faithful to the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. So this is kind of like, like that, back in then, at that time. We do the same thing in ours, but we do it in the stadium. We go in the stadium and everybody comes and then, did you find it? Cool. This is a dictionary definition of coronation,
Yeah. Coronation, the ceremony of crowning a sovereign or a sovereign's consort.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Rehoboam selected Shechem as the place of his coronation, 975 BY, probably as an act of concession to the Ephraimites. The people demanded a remission of the severe burdens imposed by Solomon and Rehoboam. Rejecting the advice of his father's counselors, followed that of his young courtiers, and returned and returned an insulting answer, which led to an open rebellion among the tribes, and he was compelled to flee to Jerusalem.
So yeah, this is where I was indicating earlier that, you know, he was opposite. They said an instruction that his father, I think, left, and the council was advising him to do it, you know, after he was being a king, but then he refused and provided like a very descriptive answer, bad answer to the, you know, the elder, the council. And that's the rebellion started from there, and then he was forced to flee to Jerusalem. Go ahead.
The tribes revolted, forming the kingdom of Judah. That's 2 Chronicles 10:17.
But as far for the children of Israel that dwelt in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them.
Yeah, that's and
Hence the kingdoms of Israel and Judah.
yeah. So after this, that's where you see the divisions. You know, after the revolting, you know, there is an internal division between the tribes, and you see that this is where the division happened, where Rehoboam ending up in Jerusalem. He stayed with Judah and Benjamin. You know, mind you, there are like 12 tribes of Israel. And I wish, do we have it? Yeah, there we have it here. So we have Zebulun, Judah, Issachar. Did I say it right? Yep. Dan, Issachar. Is that the same as Isaiah? No, it's not. It's similar.
It's
Issachar. There's Dan, Asher, Naphtali, Benjamin, Manasseh, Ephraim, Gadi, Simeon, Reuben, and I already mentioned Zebulun. So the only tribe that stick with Rehoboam was Benjamin and Judah. The other 10 end up being with another son of Solomon. You know, they divided. Yeah. Go ahead.
Rehoboam's tribe was Judah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good point. So Rehoboam, tribe was from Judah, because remember, he is on the kingship tribe. You know, the kingship of tribe, which is of David, of Solomon, and then him. So they are the kingship tribes, the Judah. So he stayed with his brother Benjamin. And it's a very, and this is another time to just remind, just as like a homework, if it's good to kind of know this story about the children of Israel, their tribes, and how eventually Yahweh ended up organizing them right here in the wilderness, because it has a lot of spiritual manifestation, and you can go in details with your physiology and anatomy. But they eventually started with the story of Joseph, when their father, the 12 children, they end up selling Joseph, and then he ended up freed, being sold to Egypt, and then the tribes. It's just it's not a good story just for a good story, but there is operations that Yahweh is putting it out. And like you come in the class, we always say, Yahweh is the architect pattern, original pattern of the universe, which means Yahweh created these creations. And this creation was created by Yahweh. When he spoke, it was done. And this creation was just not created just by just whatever. It has a pattern. And the pattern himself is Yahweh himself. So Yahweh come out of the spirits, which is more like abstract states. We always say that. Come in shape and form as Elohim. And from Elohim, that's where the creation come. Everything came from him. From Elohim, the creation come out. And the creation come out, the first thing came out that Moses was shown was the tabernacle, which we just talked about, how the tabernacle has the 3 compartments, 3, English is running away from me today. 3 different compartments, which is a court roundabout, the holy place, and most holy place. Now these are supposed to be mimicking what Yahweh showed Moses in the mountain there. Because guess what? Because Yahweh, Yahweh is we talk about the unit of spirit. Can we get that? Just I know we always say it's right here, but can I get it in 1 John 5, 7, and 8? Because I would like to read it from there. rather than just,
1 John 5 and 7.
Yeah.
For there are three that bear record in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit. And these three are one.
Yes.
And there are three that bear witness in earth, the Spirit, and the water, and the blood. And these three agree in one.
Now, there's a reason that Yahweh is one in one spirit, but the manifestation he manifests in, this different manifestation. If you look on this chart here, this is what I was referring to. It's always divided in three three different. It's a template, but it's always divided in three. There's always three. There's always three. There's always three. However, this chart is talking about the story of the children of Israel from the beginning of Adam all the way to the transgressions, in the wilderness of Sinai, and you have the tabernacle there, and then you have Yahshua being born, and how Yahshua, his baptism and ministry, how his operation followed the same pattern. And we just talk about the Spirit, the blood, the Spirit, the water, right here. And then you come on how Yahshua, when he died and resurrects, it also follows the same pattern. You have the three. And then you come when Yahshua poured the Holy Spirit on the Pentecost day, then you have the three, it follows the same pattern of three. These are all the story in the Bible, but they follow the pattern. And then you come with on the prosecutions. I think this was James, was that Stephen? Stephen, yeah, Stephen was prosecuted, which you can find this in the book of Acts. Again, it followed the pattern, And then you come when the Gentile conversions, and this is when Paul went to the Cornelius house. It also followed the pattern, You come with the apostasies. David always says so nicely, which is more like showing all these kingdoms of like the Pope, and the pagans, and everything. But it also follows the pattern, and it goes all the way to the eschatology, which is the study of the end of the things. Correct? Yeah. It also follows the pattern, and it all goes back to Yahshua the Messiah. Now he gave him the pattern, which had three compartments, and these three compartments is just not a story of three compartments, because everything about this tabernacle pattern is what you are seeing operating throughout generations and generations and generations. And that story is all about Yahshua. That story is about himself. He's telling a story of himself from the beginning, how he came and formed this, and how he created the world, and how he came himself from this state down here as a salvations and fulfill everything that he instituted all the way and put it to the end and usher us from these states of doing things, physical things, into this spiritual kingdom, which is where we are supposed to be now. So that's the reason why everything has to go according to the pattern that he set it up. Go ahead.
Judah and Benjamin alone remained true to Rehoboam. 2 Chronicles 11 and 3.
Speak unto Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all Israel and Judah and Benjamin, saying, Thus saith Yahweh, Ye shall not go up, nor fight against your brethren. Return every man to his house, for this thing is done of me. And they obeyed the words of Yahweh and returned from the going against Jeroboam.
And again, they're divided, but still Yahweh is dictating everything, through these divisions. He is in control. Yeah. Go ahead.
An expedition to reconquer Israel was forbidden by the prophet Shemaiah. 1 Kings 12 and 24.
Thus saith Yahweh, Ye shall not go up, nor fight against your brethren, the children of Israel. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me. They hearkened therefore to the word of Yahweh, and returned to depart according to the word of Yahweh.
Still during Rehoboam's lifetime, peaceful relations between Israel and Judah were never restored. 2 Chronicles 12 and 15, And then 1 Kings 14 and 30.
So all during his 17 years of reign, there was no peaceful relationship between him and because he was ruling Benjamins and Judah, but the other tribes, there were always conflicts, all during his 17 years of reign. Go ahead.
2 Chronicles 12 and 15. Now the acts of Rehoboam, first and last, are they not written in the book of Shema, the prophet, and of Iddo, the seer, concerning genealogies? And there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continually.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one was
1 Kings 14.
1 Kings 14 and 30. And there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all their days.
And this is just to confirm what Dr. Kinney just wrote in this book here. So that's the reason why he's always, because, he's giving you witness. It's not something that he's just writing from, whatever. He's giving you witness in the Bible. It's written in there in the Bible as a witness.
In the 5th year of Rehoboam's reign, the country was invaded by a host of Egyptians and other African nations under Shishak. 2 Chronicles 12 and 1 through 5.
I let me say this as a joke here a little bit. I have to bring it. I was discussing something about religions and stuff like that, and so and I was mentioning to one of my brother in Africa, in Tanzania, about how there is always like a good, there was a lot of relationship between, how the children of Israel went to Egypt and how they were doing business with a lot of African nations, if you go back in the history or whatever. So I plugged that in. I say, see, here, Africa is mentioned there, some country like Libya or whatever, because he was like, oh, you can't find Africa in the Bible or whatever. I say, oh, actually, it's mentioned several places, but in the different names, whatever. So I was like, if you check your history, you'll find it. So one of us is like, he's like, yeah, Egypt, I know Egypt. And he's like, oh, everybody think Egypt is in the Middle East. I say, yeah, that's true, but it's just because of the ignorance. Again, it's because of the ignorance of this, the delusion that, this, Lucifer do to people. Because one of the biggest things that Lucifer, the devil, the serpent, whatever you call him, is doing is to take away the information from people, and deceive people of knowing their roots in their things that need to be known, like that is very important. So he'll twist just a little things and lie to it, and you just go with it. It's like, oh yeah, whatever. It's just okay. But then when you come to realize that, oh, wait a minute. So these things were happening, it's right there. It's all over. Like, we were reading the other day about the queen of Ethiopia visiting Solomon's and how she was mesmerized about his temple, and she's giving him all this praise about, oh man, I hear about you, but now being here and seeing it by myself, I'm like, whoa, I have never. And Queen Sheba was the biggest queens in Africa those days, back in the Ethiopian kingdoms and the Sudanese kingdom. I forget the name of the Sudanese kingdom. But those were the biggest kingdoms in that northern and eastern part of Africa. They loomed all the way to southern part of Africa. And they used to do trades, they do trades. So trades come from all the way to South Africa, all the way to East Africa, my country, Tanzania, go all the way to Somalia, Sudan, to Ethiopia, and then Ethiopian, they go all the way to the Middle East. If you follow that, there was no such a thing as what we have nowadays. But people are being deceived, and they don't know the knowledge. They just take it because my pastor say this, my pastor say this. If you ask this very detailed question, and this is not about just history, because this is about your life. Because once you start knowing the truth, then you start even understanding that, yes, that's why Jay was not there when he come back to Jesus. Because if you look, J, then you say, okay, wait a minute. This is Hebrew language. Hebrew language don't even have a J. So how did this come? Then you start seeing the deviations. Let me start with that. How J was translated from the Hebrew to the Greek language, to the Latin language, all the way to the English language. If you want to know all those details, then you have to know those history. How Phoenicians borrow some of their language from, Syrians. How the Roman Empire conquered. At one time, they conquered the whole entire world. And so some of these traditions were being brought to these areas. You go to, even in the middle of Africa, you're going to find some of the remnants of the Roman empires, the cultures and everything. Some of the buildings, why you seeing all this castle and all these things is because it's a cultural thing that was being transferred from one area to another. Hence, you have the language changes a little bit, you change by a little bit. They translate it, here, they translate it here. By the time you get to Jesus, it's almost 1600. That's when the J came through, So that should ask, then you should ask yourself, okay, if they have lied about this one thing, what else have they lied?
Yeah.
So that's a question that you should ask. If they have lied something about, the name of the Savior, what else is out there? That's when you start seeing people gibberish about the Trinity. That there's God, there's the Son, and there's the Holy Spirit. No, it's not in the Bible. You just read the Bible. It's not. There's no such a thing as three different entities. It's in the Bible. Yahweh, your Yahweh, is one. But people believe, the other thing we talk about, going to church, give you a tenth or whatever. The famous one is eating the waffle things and the wines, Do you know what you're doing? Because that's what the Lucifer wants you to think. Whereas what I was saying is that everything that we are talking about here, the story of Solomon and everything, is talking about Yahshua. Because why? Because Yahshua came and fulfilled all these things, put away all these kind of ordinances, and usher us in this kingdom. So worshiping Yahweh as he really is and actually exists is through spirits now, through the truth, through the speaking of the word of Yahshua. That's when you get knowledge. You don't need to worship by now waffle, you go to church, you feel good. I remember that. You eat that bread and you do the little wine and you go like, today, man, I feel good. I feel good today. I have done my work. No, because Yahweh made the children of Israel here to do that. Guess what? They were sinning every single day. Besides sacrificing, they had to sacrifice something if they sinned. Every time they sin, they have to bring a sacrifice and, put it here. And then the high priest will officiate. Then their sinner, are forgiven. Then they move on their life. But guess what? They continue to do that every single day. You should ask yourself then, wait a minute. So they were sinning beside all these laws and everything because you cannot do by yourself. You need a Savior. And who is a Savior? Yahshua the Messiah. Not Jesus. Yahshua the Messiah. Now, somebody can say, but it's just a name, I can just use it. No, once you twist that name, then even how you worship change. Then you're going to start accepting little things like waffle, the wine, those little things. Solomon, Yahweh told him, give him specific instruction. Don't worship other idol. Make sure that the temple is there because the temple represents me. I am among you. As long as you do that, you're good. Don't go out and marry other, people from outside, your tribes. Keep the Sabbath. He told them, keep the Sabbath. Then they start doing that. They start doing their own things. They start mingling with the Gentiles. They start saying, hey, we're cool. We got all these things. We got our inheritance. What happened is, so everything that we're saying here is not just like a story, a feel-good story or whatever. It's about your life. And the more we read last week, the more you become obedient, the more you seek Yahweh and try to know about him, the more he rewards you by blessing you. So you might be blessed. You might just, I always use these simple things. Sometimes you might be just from nowhere, things just start happening with you. Things are just aligning and you're like, whoa, man, I'm lucky, man. Like, no, you're not. It's because you have done what Yahweh have told you to do, and He's going to reward you. He's going to reward you. He's going to put you in the right path. Things going to just align, and you'll be like, you don't know why is this thing happening, but it's because He's making, because you're seeking Him, you're obeying Him. But you go outside that, then things start, doors, you get a butt whoop, then you're right. Doors start closing, you start arguing, your marriage start falling apart. You and your brother start fighting every day about little things. Your mom tell you something, you get mad a little bit, you're like, things just start, you're like, well, what's going on? It's because you're not following what Yahweh have asked you to do. It can be as simple as that. Yeah, go ahead.
2 Chronicles 12, 1 through 5. And it came to pass when Rehoboam had established the kingdom and had strengthened himself, he forsook the law of Yahweh and all Israel with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass that in the 5th year of the king of Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem, because they had transgressed against Yahweh. When the 1,200 chariots and 70,000 horsemen and the people were without number that came with him out of Egypt, and the Lumums, Circums, and the Ethiopians, and he took the fenced cities which pertained to Judah and came to Jerusalem. Then came Shemaiah, the prophet of Rehoboam, and to the prince of Judah that were gathered together to Jerusalem because of Shishak, and said unto them, Thus saith Yahweh, ye have forsaken me, and therefore have I also left you in the hand of Shishak.
Now these tribes, by the way, Yahweh kept them away. When they were obeying His law, Yahweh kept them away. And every time they tried to come and fight them, Yahweh gave them, strength, and they win. So they pushed them away. So they were always there, like they are always, waiting for their moments. You kind of feel like, how we're doing. I'll give you a good example of like a manifestation of spiritual manifestation. It's kind of like how we're dealing with Corona right now. The COVID-19, the virus. Viruses are very, I don't know how to use the best way to use, smart or very, very tricky to deal with, because virus can evade our immune system. Now, they mutate. And the reason they mutate is because once they know, these people have figured us out, we gotta find another way to get in. So right now, the virus, the coronavirus, they have this protein that they use to stack in your cell body to get into your cell body. These specific receptors that they will come and attach on your cell body, because they can trick that receptor in your cell to allow them entrance. So once those receptors come, they stack there, and then slowly they're opening and they go inside your cell, and then they go and they take over your cell. They replicate and they come out, they go attack more cells. Well, we figured it out. We say, okay, we know what to do. You're tricking us. So we're gonna make something so that our cell can detect you ahead of time, and we're not gonna get your interest. That's basically what we're doing. And the virus, we figured the virus for quite some time. And then the virus now say, they figured us out. That's why you have all these variations of, COVID. Because then they mutate. They say, we don't need to use this type of proteins as our receptor now. Let's make another protein. So, but when they make these other different protein receptors, when they come there, the cell is not recognizing it. So it won't call the soldiers to come and fight it. So you just feel like, there's one of ours. Come in. Boom, they go in. Replicate, go and attack more cells. Then we say, no, this is a different one. They figured it out. So then we have to make another one to kind of like, it's a war. It's kind of like a tricky situation. And we have dealt with virus for many, many years. They're like that. Viruses are very tricky. Is there a cell here? Yeah. Viruses are very tricky. So what virus want always, I feel like virus is a demonstration of what this guy do. Because what virus have always wanted, this is your cell. They always want to come and control this. They want to take over your DNA, because DNA is what you are, a copy of everything about yourself. about your body, what you mix and everything. So what the virus always wants is to gain entrance to your cell. Your cell have a lot of protection out here, and it won't allow anything to go in or out unless it's all dictated from the, from the original, from the DNA. So the virus always tries to trick the cell to mimic certain things here so they can gain interest, because once they gain interest, they go to the ribosome, they start creating templates of RNA, and they get the replications. They take over the cell, and that cell is going to be dead. That's what they're doing. That's the same thing as Lucifer. So that's what I was saying. An example of this different tribes, when David was reigning, Yahweh was always protecting them. Whenever this army, this outside invader come and try to attack them, Israel was always winning because they were protected by Yahweh. But the moment they disobey Yahweh, Yahweh say, hey, you think you can do better? Here you go. He removed that protections. Once you remove that protections, you're literally open to anything. This is what we are reading right here. Because now these Egyptians, there's like a king, like this. If you go in the 1 Kings, 14th chapter, 13th chapter, I think, they talks more about these tribes, which at one time they were defeated by Solomon, and they ran away and they go hide in Egypt. In Egypt, the king of Egypt, the Pharaoh, gave him some kind of like a refugee and say, oh yeah, you stay here. Don't worry, you're good. But then when they hear Solomon is dead, and they hear, oh, his children are fighting, they're not strong. I want to go back now. Let's go attack them. Because now is our window of opportunity to go and attack them. And yes, because Yahweh have taken out that shield of protections now. So they're exposed. So they're going to be, they're going to be conquered. It's the same thing in our spiritual body. Once you disobey Yahweh, then he take that protection away. Hey, you're up for the grab. Anything can come and anything can just swipe you away. So anybody can come with a simple lie, and you're not going to have that strength to say, wait a minute, I know this is a lie. You're not going to have that knowledge, that information. So you're going to just be swayed very easy. And before you know, you're taking away from the truth. Before you know, you're way over there. And coming back is going to take a lot of works to come back to the, So it's the same manifestation spiritually, what is happening. Physically, it's the same thing that's happening spiritually. Go ahead.
Jerusalem itself was taken, and Rehoboam had to purchase an ignominious peace by delivering up all the treasures with which Solomon had adorned the temple and palace.
Now think about this. Back in the time when David was a king, when Solomon was a king, this was kingdom that was spoken in all over the place around this area. Jerusalem was the kingdom, Yahweh's kingdom. So people like you can't even touch Jerusalem at that time. But now his son, Solomon's son comes, I'm going to use the Daniel's word that she say, he got whooped to the fact that he has to even take some of his stuff from the temple and give it to this guy who whooped him. Now how low can you go? If your temple, the temple was everything to the children of Israel because it represents Yahweh. But now you're going to the temple and taking these, things. And again, this is more, if you go back and read on the king, the book of King, you will see what he offered. He offered a lot to this guy. But again, this is working according to what Yahweh told him before. Go ahead.
2 Chronicles 12:9.
Mm-hmm.
So Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem and took away the treasures of the house of Yahweh and the treasures of the king's house. He took all. He carried away all the shields of gold which Solomon had made.
And this is what I was just saying. If you go, and it's more like you go, if you start in 2 Chronicle, and I think in the 2 Kings, or 1 King or the 14th, they talk more, like the whole chapter just talk about the whole invasions and invasion, and how they took away a lot of things from the temple. Go ahead.
The rest of Rehoboam's life was unmarked by any events of importance. He died in 958 BY, after a reign of 17 years. Having ascended the throne in 975 BY at the age of 41. 1 Kings 14:21 and 2 Chronicles 12 and 13.
And Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, reigned in Judah. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which Yahweh did choose out of all the tribes of Israel, to put his name there and his mother's name as Nashma and Ammonenus. And then 2 Chronicles 12 and 13. So King Rehoboam strengthened himself in Jerusalem and reigned, for Rehoboam was 140 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which Yahweh had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, to put his name there, and his mother's name was Nahum of the Amorites.
Again, this is just a confirmation of what we were just, talking about, because you actually have to get the witness from the Bible, not just me speaking here gibberish, and you think like, where is he getting all this information? The information is there, and like the book of Kings, the 14th chapter and the 2nd Chronicle, it's talking in details. And again, like I said, he only, ended up living for 58 years. It was confirmed there. He reigned for only 17 years, where his grandfather and his father reigned for almost 40 years. So that's just show that when Yahweh says something, it's done, man. It's done. It's not a joke. You might think like, oh, I'm still, nothing has happened. It will happen. Believe me, it will happen. So now let's talk about the other son of Solomon who ended up leading the other tribes, the 10 tribes.
Jeroboam was made king of the 10 northern tribes and set up for a time his capital at Shechem. It was the first capital of the new kingdom. Subsequently, Tirzah became the royal residence, if not the capital of Jeroboam, and of his successors. The division of the kingdom, known as Israel, rapidly declined, and in the year 721 BY, King Hoshea and the 10 tribes were carried captive to Assyria by Shalmaneser, sure I'll say that, or by Sargon, his successor. The 2 tribes, it says 1. Okay, so right here.
Yeah.
The 2 tribes known as Judah survived for over 100 years longer, and in 606 BY, the Second Babylonian Empire, and set up under the rulership of Nabopolassar, father of Nebuchadnezzar. Note particularly that the First Babylonian Empire was in 2247 BY under Nimrod, which has already been adequately discussed in this book. Nebuchadnezzar led an army against Judah and overcame Nineveh and Egypt while his father reigned. We have shown that Solomon's temple was finished in 1004.5 and dedicated in 1000.5 BY. Then 400 years after the temple was finished would be 604 BY, when Nebuchadnezzar's successor, Nabopolassar, ascended the Babylonian throne. According to Smith Pelobay Dictionary of the Bible, page 437, and overthrew Judah and subjected them to 3 years' servitude in their own land of Canaan. Judah was later taken captive to Babylon. These actions on the part of Nebuchadnezzar were in obedience to the will of Yahweh, as stipulated in the judgments and laws which Yahweh had made between himself and the children of Israel in Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses.
Yeah, so again, we're going to go back and pick up some of those verses, but basically what he's talking here is the other son of Solomon, which is Jeroboam, ruled the 10 tribes. However, just like as his brother, he was also, being chastised by other nations, and he ended up being defeated, and they were taken captive, and they were ruled by these other nations. And Raja went through the timeline last week on how this timeline, for just somebody who who is not familiar with, so Raja went through this timeline from here, going toward Yahshua the Messiah, birth, death, birth, death, burial, resurrection, but I wanted to start the other way around. Birth, life, and ministry of Yahshua the Messiah. Yeah. And so we went through this timeline where we talked about, before, how they describe the years when Yahshua came in, that was the year 0. Going forward, it was after Yahshua the Messiah. Before that, it was before the birth of Yahshua the Messiah. So when you're going toward Yahshua the Messiah, although you are increasing years if you stand from this side, but you're actually decreasing towards 0. So we were talking about this timeline things, and it can be like a little tricky and confusing or whatever. So, but you can do it because Yahweh give you knowledge. As long as you trust on Yahweh, Yahweh will give you knowledge. And you don't learn something little quick, whatever, but He'll eventually open it up as long as you keep your diligence and asking questions and keep looking at it. I always tell, I was like struggling with my daughter because she was like having a hard time on one of assignments in school, in college. And I think, I'm going to say that I shouldn't reveal it, but she failed it and she has to repeat it. And she was like, oh man, this is tough, whatever. So I asked her like specifically, so tell me what happened around that time when you failed this class. And she was like, oh, it was just like this, I didn't pay attention. I said, no, they have to be something that you were not doing it right. And that's why you fail, because if you pay attention, you do your due diligence, you could have made it, whatever. So she had to repeat that class, and now, just today she texted me, she's like, oh, I passed this class, oh, she's like so excited about it. And when she was doing that assignment, I remember me and my wife she was here just during the time of the break, but she had to stay up all night that day because she has to do that assignment. I remember that. And she was like so tired in the morning because I wake up and I'm doing work. And she's like, and I told her, I said, you know what? Your hard work will pay off because you did this, it's going to pay off. So today she was very excited. So she has to call me. It's like, oh, I passed that, whatever. So I asked her like a little fatherly question, like, oh, so you didn't do the right way the last time. That's why you failed. She's like, oh, you had to bring that up. I say, no, it's the truth. We all have been there. If you don't do, there is ingredients for success. If, this is just what Yahweh was telling the children of Israel. If you do A, B, C, D, I'm going to reward you. But if you don't do it, then I'm going to punish you. And this is what's going to happen. So in life also, there's the same thing. There is ingredient, success in life, there is ingredients, if you want to be good in life, whatever it is you call, there's ingredient of success. You have to do A, you have to do B, you have to do C. We are not doing this just because we like whatever, because this was set up by Yahweh himself from the beginning. If you do A, B, C, D, you're going to be successful. If you don't do A, B, C, D, you're going to end up on the other side of the, whatever. So if we don't follow that, that's what happens. So I was telling her, but it felt good to tell her that, yeah, you didn't do it. You had to bring that up. I said, yeah, it felt good. I enjoyed it a little bit, but I was happy for her and everything. So that's just a side joke or whatever, But what we deal with our own family, our own children, is exactly what Yahweh was doing with the children of Israel. That's just another beautiful things about this gospel is, when Yahweh say, I will what I will to be, Yahweh is everything. Everything you're experiencing in life, everything. Like if you just allow yourself to see Yahweh as it really is and actually exists, everything you're experiencing in life, to the minute things like tying your shoes or whatever, is Yahweh. You know what I mean? So once you're allowed to see that, then it gives you like a little pause on certain of these things. Like if something happened, then it gives you a little pause to look back on Yahshua, say, wait a minute, maybe I didn't do something that I was supposed to do, that Yahshua instructed me to do. That's, it gives you that little pause and kind of like, so, but you have to allow yourself to see that. And if you are, and I don't know how to say this, but Yahweh will give you those information. Yahweh will send you information through his people. You know, you're sitting right here. Yahweh will tell you something. You may not get anything out of this whole lecture, but he will tell you something. He will give you some information to spark your neurons, and you go there, you say, that was interesting. He give you just a little bit. That way, it will come a day that you may need that information, and you'll be like, wait a minute. It's Yahweh speaking, because everything in this universe, everything you're doing, you're speaking, you're doing, it's Yahweh. Everything in operation is Yahweh. Even those bad things sometimes you're seeing happening. We talked about this, the war in Ukraine, the war in Sudan, in Eritrea, in all these places, people are dying. And it's sudden, like I just saw in the news today about that issue it was at Memphis, about that young man, the police brutally just beat him, and it's all over the news, and he died, FBI is investigating and everything, I just saw another news in Israel, there was a bombing, people were brutalizing Palestinians, and you see all this evil stuff happening in the world, and you're like, why people are doing these evil things? Why is this happening? But guess what? Yahweh is in control. Yahweh have set up these things so that he can show you, so you can get to see that when Yahweh told Moses, and I always go back to that, like for me, that's the thing that just show the power of Yahweh. When Yahweh appeared to Moses right here, Moses asked him his name, and he's like, I will be what I will to be. And he demonstrated that. He said, Moses, what you have in your hands? And he said, I have a rod. He said, throw it down. Moses threw it down, that rod turned to be a serpent. And at that time, the serpent is like the worst things you want to be nearby. And Moses was like, I'm out of here. Yahweh say, hey, chill, man. Go pick it up with the tail. Moses went and picked it up. It was a rod again. I will what I will to be. I can be that serpent, deadly serpent, and destroy everything, but I also can be life. He told him, put your hands in the bosom. The bosom, take out leprosy. And Moses was like, whoa. And leprosy was like just like a severe disease that people can whatever, And he's like, put it back. He put it back. And he was healed. I will what I will to be. So whenever we see all these things, it's all operation of Yahweh. Even when he's dividing the children of Israel, it's because he told them, he's putting this, putting them in captivity, putting them all these things. It's because he is in control, and what he wants us to see is like, you have to follow my law and what I told you to do. If you don't do it, I will punish you. That's what he's trying to say. So everything in operation in this world, it's Yahweh. So what do we see in the world? See Yahweh. Find out what is Yahweh trying to show. When we have coronavirus, it's Yahweh. That's right. Find out what is Yahweh trying to show. Everything, financial markets scrambling, it's Yahweh. Find out what is Yahweh trying to tell you. Flooding, it's Yahweh. Shooting, everything is Yahweh, but find out why is Yahweh trying to show, just like what we are trying to do right now with the children of Solomon's, all this division and everything. Yahweh is trying to tell a story and trying to tell us something. And if we don't pay attention, it's happening within ourselves spiritually. That's what's going to happen spiritually. So let's go. Oh man, we have 10 minutes. But let's finish this paragraph and just pick up some of the verses.
Jeroboam was made king of the 10 northern tribes and set up for a time his capital at Shechem. Mm-hmm. It was the first capital of the new kingdom. 1 Kings 12:25.
Then Jeroboam built Shechem in Mount Ephraim and dwelt therein, and went out from thence and built Penuel.
Subsequently, Tirzah became the royal residence, if not the capital, of Jeroboam. Mm-hmm. 1 Kings 14:17.
And Jeroboam's wife arose and departed and came to Tish. And when she came to the threshold of the door, the child died.
And again, this is just a confirmation of what is been written here in the Bible.
And of his successors, 1 Kings 15:33 and 16 and 8.
In the third year of Asa, king of Judah, began Baasha, the son of Ahiah, to reign over all Israel in Tirzah 20 and 4 years.
16 and 8.
In the 20 and 6th year of Asa, king of Judah, began Elah, the son of Baasha, to reign over Israel in Tirzah 2 years.
Okay.
The division of the kingdom, 975 BY, known as Israel, rapidly declined, and in the year 721 BY, King Hoshea and the 10 tribes were carried captive to Assyria by Shalmaneser.
Shalmaneser. So see there, even they mentioned 1975 BY, so BBY before Yahshua the Messiah, and then they go down to 721. You see how the years are decreasing towards zero. So yeah, it can be confusing because it's like, wait a minute, but yeah, that's decreasing, going like what Raja was doing. And think about the timeline again. Timeline is there, zero is here. We're coming from this side, going toward that side. So as you come from this side, let's say 2000 is here, zero is here. As you descend from this, not descend, that's a bad word. As you move away or move toward the zero, if you're 2000 here, when you come here, it's going to be 1990. When you come here, it's going to be maybe 1520. When you come here, it's going to be, you're decreasing the year because you're going toward that direction. So that's exactly what it is right here.
2 Kings 15:29, 17:6, 18 and 1 through 11.
And it came to pass when he reigned that he smote all the house of Jeroboam. He left not to Jeroboam any that brethren until he had destroyed him, according unto the saying of Yahweh, which he spake his servants Ayah and the Shunamite. 17 and 6. And the Arabs brought him bread and flesh in the morning, and bread and flesh in the evening, and he drank of the brook.
18 and 1 through 11.
You want to go through all those? 1 through 11?
Just pick up 1 and then I think go to 10. And then 10 and 11. I think that's where they...
And it came to pass after many days that the word of Yahweh came unto Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go, show thyself unto Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. 10th verse.
You know what? Let's glean that because that's where there's actually the story of the captivity, the Assyrian, how they come down. So read through the whole because it's good to hear the story. Yeah.
And Elijah went to show himself unto Ahab, and there was a sore famine in Samaria. And Ahab called Obadiah, which was the governor of his house. Now Obadiah feared Yahweh greatly. For it was so when Jezebel cut off the prophets of Yahweh that Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50 in a cave and fed them with bread and water. And Ahab said unto Obadiah, Go into the land unto all fountains of water and unto all brooks, peradventure we may find grass to save horses and mules alive, and that we lose not all the beast. And they divided the land between them to pass throughout it. And Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. And as Obadiah was in the way, behold, Elijah met him, and he knew him and fell on his face and said, Art thou thy master Elijah? And he answered and said, I am. Go, tell thy master, behold, Elijah is here. And he said, What have I sinned that thou wouldst deliver thy servants into the hand of Ahab to slay me?
Hold on.
Am I in the wrong one?
Yeah, this is about Elijah. And I was like, I was getting like Second King and 18.
Shoot.
I was wondering about the same thing. That's not what I read. Yeah. But this is sort of Elijah, it's good.
Sorry
but
about
yeah. It's 2 King 18.
2 Kings. You want 18 and 1?
1 to 10. Yeah.
Okay. Now it came to pass in the 3rd year of Hoshea the son of Elan, the king of Israel, that Hezekiah the son of Hazah, the king of Judah, began to reign. 25 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Abi, the daughter of Zechariah. And he did that which was right in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that David his father did. He removed the shrines and brake the images, cut down the sacred poles, and brake in pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made. For unto those days the children of Israel did burn incense to it, and called it Nesutan. And he trusted in Yahweh Elohim of Israel, so that after him was none like him among all the kings of Judah, nor any that were before him. For he clave to Yahweh, and departed not from the following him, but kept his commandments which Yahweh commanded Moses. And Yahweh was with him, and he prospered, and whithersoever he went forth, and he rebelled against the king of Syria, and served him not. He smote the Philistines even unto Gaza, and the borders thereof, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And it came to pass in the 4th year that of King Hezekiah,
Hezekiah.
Okay, which was the 7th year of Hosea, son of Elah, king of Israel, that Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it. And at the end of 3 years they took it, even the 6th year of that is the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Israel, Samaria was taken. Oh, and one more.
And 11,
and the
yeah,
king of
this is-
Assyria did carry away Israel unto Assyria, and put them in Hala, and in harbor by the river of Gozan, and in the city of the Medes.
So go to the 12. This is why I'm always wanting to go a little further. Go to the 12 verses.
Because they obeyed not the voice of Yahweh their Elohim, but transgressed his covenant, and all Moses, the servants of Yahweh, commanded, and would not hear them nor do them.
So that's the reason why they were taken captive, because they did not obey the word of Yahweh, so let's finish up there a little quick. We have
King Hoshea and the 10 tribes were carried captive to Assyria by Shalmaneser, or by Sargon, his successor. Isaiah 20:1.
In the year that Tartan came unto Ashdod, when Sargon, the king of Assyria, sent him and fought against Ashdod and took it.
The 2 tribes known as Judah survived for over 100 years longer, and in 606 BY, the Second Babylonian Empire was set up under the rulership of Nabopolassar, father of Nebuchadnezzar. Note particularly that the First Babylonian Empire was in 2247 BY, under Nimrod, which had already been adequately discussed in this book. Nebuchadnezzar led an army against Judah and overcame Nineveh and Egypt while his father reigned. We have shown that Solomon's temple was finished in 1004.5 and dedicated in 1000.5 BY. Then 4,000 years after the temple was finished would be 604 BY, when Nebuchadnezzar's successor, Nabopolassar, ascended the Babylonian throne. According to Smith Pelabwe, Dictionary of the Bible, page 437, and overthrew Judah and subjected them to 3 years' servitude in their own land of Canaan. 2 Kings 24:1.
In the days of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came up. Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he returned and rebelled against him.
Judah was later taken captive to Babylon. These actions on the part of Nebuchadnezzar were in obedience to the will of Yahweh, as stipulated in the judgments and laws which Yahweh had made between himself and the children of Israel in Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses.
So what he's saying here, and we already read the Leviticus, the 26th chapter, what he's saying that here, the fact that Nebuchadnezzar took over and reigned over the children of Israel was the obedience of the will of Yahweh. but we look at it in the opposite, So anyway, so as you can see, we went through this two kingdomship. Now the next, my last portion of this, which will be next week, is just to demonstrate what is this telling about Yahshua the Messiah, because all this is going to line up to Yahshua the Messiah. Everything that we were just going through this here is just lining up to pointing to Yahshua, because everything that we're going to talk about is always going to point to Yahshua the Messiah. So we're going to be more like, I hope, if you read ahead of time or whatever it is, but it's going to point out, what does this mean for our own soul, and what does it mean for our own salvation? And I hope that you get something out of it today. And I was like, I remember you always tell me, don't stick this in this. And I was putting this one. This is just a joke. If you drive stick shift, for some reason I found myself doing this. This is a funny thing. Yeah, if you drive stick shift, because I had the stick shift and I love it. Anyway, praise Yahshua. Hallelujah.
Thank you, Dr. Mayengu. That brings a close to our class for this evening. I hope everybody enjoyed that and got something out of it. Any comments or questions? Indeed. I'll keep announcements short because we're a little over time. We had two visitors this evening, Akio Lewis and Devin Taylor, first-time visitor. Thank you both for joining with us. It's a pleasure to have you guys come. Thank you. Hope you come again. All right, announcements are as follows. Classes are held every Wednesday and Friday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. and Sundays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Our after-class question and answer period is the third Friday of each month, and the next one will be February 17th. Members and ministers, we ask that you come to class, be on time, and dress appropriately so that you may be called as speakers. That concludes our announcements. Let's all rise for the doxology so that we may be dismissed. I will be quoting the last two verses of the book of Jude from the Holy Name Bible. Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling, and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy, to the only wise Elohim our Savior, through Yahshua the Messiah, our sovereign, belong glory and majesty, dominion and power, both before all time and now and ever. Let us all say, Hallelujah.
There was this mountain so high I could not climb. For every step that I would take forward, Satan put me 3 steps behind. And there was this river so deep I thought I'd drown. Then a voice touched my soul oh so gently. It was Yahshua when I cried out. He said, peace, be still, child, and let me lift you over. He said, peace, be still, child, let me make you my soldier for truth. Such beauty, yeah, yeah. Wear it as your armor. He said, peace, be still, child, and let me lift you over and over and over and over. Troubles on my right side and loneliness to my left. I didn't think I belonged anywhere. darkness came a light, and someone standing